word, but they have a gap between the Oilers and the Knights that no one saw coming. Is this all because of the great advising you've given them all
about the
season
operations
long?
of hockey?
No, that's about as good as my internet right now. But no, you know what? It's been a lot of things, and it hasn't been overnight. You know, there's been some difficult years down in Anaheim, and our young guys have definitely taken a step. I think Joel Quenneville coming in was very helpful. You know, the addition of a guy like Kreider to go out and sort of play a certain role. Trouba's having a good year. We've had a lot of things go right this year, which has been good. And on top of that, I guess you just talked about Vegas and Edmonton maybe not having their best of years. So we're kind of in the mix with those teams, which is great.
There's an interesting, almost like, I don't know, 2 tiers of ages on your team. You kind of got a bunch of young guys and a bunch of old guys. Have you been on teams like that? How does that dynamic work? Is there someone have to bridge the gap to connect the two?
Yeah, I'm not in the room enough to really make a comment. I don't think I have. You're right. It's a pretty unique situation where, you know, we've got some guys with some good experience. They've been in the league a long time, and that was by design. I mean, it's a tough league. There's a lot to learn for young guys, and we're hoping that we've got guys in there. We know we have guys in there that know what the NHL's about, that have had success, and our young guys can learn things from. So that's why it's sort of structured that way. Probably traded away a few of our middle guys a few years ago to sort of really start the rebuild, and this is what you end up with.
You mentioned some of the young guns here, and you also mentioned Chris Kreider. Jacob Trouba's another one that I certainly can look at and say, great leadership. You know, it was good enough for the Rangers to name him captain once upon a time, but you know, how influential have they been for your young players?
Well, I think the big thing is just the consistency, you know, stabilizing our team, our approach to it's a long season, the ups and downs, and they just keep coming to work, doing their job. They know what it is. And I just think that's a great example for our young guys to see. It is tough to be consistent over 82 games, you know, and then shooting for the playoffs. So those guys kind of demonstrate that to our young guys. And I think obviously Joel Quenneville as well. Obviously the amount of experience he has, just won his 1,000th game, regular season game, which was a heck of an accomplishment. And, you know, having him behind the bench is sort of doing the same thing for our young guys. And hopefully they are learning, you know, quicker than the average young guy, and we can get more competitive as time goes on.
Scott, for Leafs fans, we have you in Leafs Hour here. So for Leafs fans trying to understand the young players that you guys have there, I wonder if you can help us tell us the differences between you, particularly Carlson, Gauthier, and Seneca. Because I look for years here in Toronto, it was like people talked about the core, like they were one person, but Willie Nylander played nothing like John Tavares, played nothing like Matthews. So those 3 players, how are they different in the way they're having success?
Yeah, I guess start with Cutter Gauthier. He's a shooter, really good skater as well. Has played a lot with Leo Carlson, who kind of, you know, loves to transport the puck, moves the puck as well as has a good shot as well. But those 2 guys together, both can skate extremely well, have a high-end level of skill. And Beckett Seneca coming in this year as a 19-year-old, you know, he maybe had a little bit of a slow start in rookie camp and the early part of training camp, but he's just continued to improve and get better. And obviously has a high level of skill as well. He loves to control the puck. He doesn't mind protecting it in difficult areas. And he's a real competitive kid. And that's the part I love about him, is he loves to go to the net. He doesn't mind mixing it up a little bit. Someone gives him a bit of a shot, you know, he'll keep an eye out for them the next couple shifts. Mm-hmm. That's important. If you want to compete and try and win, you have to have some of that in your lineup and in your team. And I'm kind of excited to see that element of his game for sure.
You're watching and listening to Scott Niedermayer, 4-time Stanley Cup champion, special advisor to the Anaheim Ducks. You mentioned Joel Quenneville here. If you look over the course of this season, what has stood out the most for you about Joel, who is often still regarded as one of the best coaches in the league?
Yeah, I didn't really know Joel before. I maybe met him briefly, but didn't know a lot about him. Obviously, you see his reputation, talked to a lot of people that had nothing but great things to say about how he coached and approached the game. And the thing that does stand out, I think he just has such a great feel for not only the team, but the individual players on where they're at, you know, what they need. If, you know, sometimes we do as players need a kick in the butt, or we need to be challenged. He's not afraid to do that. But at the same time, as players, sometimes we need a pat on the back and some encouragement. And I think he just has a real good sense of how to sort of manage that, individual players and the whole team. And our guys have responded, so far this year. And it's been fun. When you're in the depths of trying to rebuild the team, sometimes you wonder if, the days are going to come when you can start competing and winning games or expect to win games. And I'm glad that at least now we're winning more than we're losing. And that's a step forward for us.
So did you have a hand in that process in being patient when it wasn't going well and saying we need to, either rebuild or hold on here, or what was your input as you guys tried to get back to this?
Well, it kind of, happened when Pat Verbeek was hired. Bob Murray, was let go where he stepped down. They were looking for a new general manager. I think at that point we might have missed the playoffs already for 3 years, maybe something like that. And there really was no rebuild happening because continued to try to compete. We had some older, really good players and just hadn't had the success. But when the change was made, I think it was in some sense easier for Pat to come in, look at our team from a distance and kind of recognize what needed to happen. And he kind of got to work within a couple months. The deadline was next, and he made some trades of some older players to get some prospects and picks. And he went to work over the next few years, watching a lot of junior hockey and trying to rebuild the talent in the organization. And we still have a ways to go. It'd still be great to get more talent, more young talent, but it at least feels we're headed in the right direction for the moment, which is good.
Scott, Justin Bourne just mentioned we are in our Leaf Hour edition of our show, so I'm going to bring it back to the blue and white a little bit. There is a connection between you, Tom Curvers, and the Toronto Maple Leafs in 1991. Lots of talk about the Leafs giving up a pick this draft, to the Boston Bruins. My question to you is, do you ever look back and wonder what could have been, or do people bring it up, or am I the only idiot here that does it now?
No, I think whenever I'm in Toronto or talking to somebody in Toronto, it gets brought up. It's interesting. Like, I don't even know if I knew that's how the pick got to New Jersey when they drafted me. I just knew they had the third pick. I went to the draft in Buffalo, ended up being picked by them, and away you go. So I didn't really think too much about it. I think probably until, maybe I showed up in Toronto for my first game there and they started talking about it or asking a question about it. So maybe about 7 years ago, I was at a game in Chicago and I'd never met Tom Curvers, and he came up to me and introduced himself with a big smile, and he kind of, talked about the connection we had and introduced himself, which was really cool. For him to sort of do that, I'm sure a lot of the talk maybe wasn't always in the best light for him in that situation, but he was such a great guy. Came up and introduced himself, like I said, so it's kind of neat.
Kim,
Wonderful person.
I didn't grow up in Toronto. What happened here? What I missed?
The Leafs traded for a defenseman and gave up their first pick that ended up being Scott Niedermayer.
Oh, jeez, guys.
Well, and that year, Eric Lindros was the first overall pick, and there was probably even more concern at the time about maybe losing that player with the pick as well. So yeah, probably interesting times there in Toronto.
Very interesting.
Yeah, Sam, not happy with that. Other guy on the team I wanted to ask you about, Lucas Dostal. He's just been absolutely lights out. Was it clear early on in this guy's career that he was going to be the number one there? Because right now he's one of the league's best already.
Yeah, I think what really stands out with him, obviously he's talented, but he's a real pro. I mean, he's been around now for a bit, but still relatively young, and just the way he approaches the game, he's a real competitor. His preparation, everything is as good as you'd see in pro hockey. And I think you need guys like that too in your organization. And I think if it's your goalie, that just gives everybody confidence knowing that, they got a guy back there doing everything he can to help our team and stop pucks. And yeah, he's been good for us. Been good for the Czech Republic, had success with them as well last year and won a world championships, I think 1 or 2 years ago. So he's proven he can sort of handle some pressure, and he loves being a net. He loves the challenge of trying to stop pucks.
It's going to be a great finish here, Scott. We really appreciate your time. Best of luck the rest of the way. Thanks for doing this.
No problem, guys. Good talking to you. Thanks.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Scott Niedermayer. Just hold on. There's a bit of a follow-up to that story in 1991 that once once the Leafs found out that they were flirting with the basement, they went and made another trade with the Quebec Nordiques. And they pulled two veterans, I can't remember who, and sent them draft picks. So
they wouldn't bottom out.
So they wouldn't bottom out and have the first overall pick go to New Jersey, which was Eric Lindros.
They couldn't be seen as having given away Eric Lindros.
Yes.
So probably
Eric, if they don't make the Curvers trade for the first
they
rounder,
bottom out and get Eric.
they get Eric Lindros.
Oh.
Did you know that, Sammy?
I did. I barely knew it, but I did kind of know that.
Like if you had to give Boston the pick this year, if you're the Leafs, maybe you should have added at the deadline just to give them a worse pick. But obviously, there's different stipulations. Hey, fun fact with the clauses on the Leafs pick thing this year. Did you know?
Clauses.
So this year their pick is top 5 protected. So
Yes.
if they finish in the top 5,
Yeah.
they get to keep it. Boston.
Well, not guaranteed because there's
the lottery could bump.
it could bump them out.
Yeah. So, but let's say they get their pick in the top 5 this year. Next year, Boston's pick gets bumped to the next year.
Yes.
If Toronto were to then finish in the bottom 10 again.
Yes.
So like a really bad whatever. They would actually get to pick whether they want to give the pick to Boston or Philly. So then Boston could, if you gave it to Philly, Boston would get bumped to 2028 unprotected.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just learned it this morning from Rory Boylan, our editor.
Yeah, Roy Boylan broke that news to me today.
Yeah. So there's a way.
There's some flexibility then.
Yes. So I'm not saying that is a plus. I'm just saying that it's the way it's all going to shake out if they're bad for some years. By the way, there's a world where 2028 is the year they're the worst.
For sure.
As they hang on here and try to make it work for another year or two.
They trade everyone away,
decide there's a year where this is a nightmare, the whole thing.
Yeah.
This is my nightmare.
And you get Eric Lindros first overall. I promised this yesterday, and this is the new segment that I promised you, Kipper, that you're going to be. It's called Kipper's Tank Watch. Okay? Because I knew you were going to be really fired up about the segment, so I want to name it after you, brother.
Okay, I appreciate that.
So these are the games we need tonight.
Yeah.
Need the Devils over the Flames. Okay? Flames are uncatchable in terms of awfulness. And the Devils are right around the Leafs.
1 point difference
Yes.
of the Leafs. You need
so need the Devils over the Flames.